Welcome back to my channel. Today I will be reading from a popular subreddit, so let's jump right into it. No one. I saw myself on the street, and he blinked first. This happened to me about 5 years ago. I was walking home from school in Chicago, lived about a mile and a half away. At first I thought it was strange, but I also thought it was probably just some dude who had the same taste in clothes as me. I didn't think much of it until he stopped and stared at me for a moment. I stared back, confused. Then he slowly started to smile. The footage showed me walking up to the door, and then my mom opening it. I was confused because she wasn't home. She was at work. "When was the last time that you talked to your dad?" I said. "Yesterday afternoon." "Okay, well, he just got home about an hour ago. Do you remember what time you got home from school?" I told her what time it was. She calculated and said, "Well, that gives you enough time to have been here, but you weren't. They never found the me from the future, but I'm still here." My mom and I both stared at the screen in disbelief. I definitely did not go inside the house, so I was pretty drunk. All of a sudden, I see someone that looks exactly like me. Why did I see my drunk future self? Is it possible for time to be out of sync, or is it just a coincidence? What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and see you next time. I didn't think much of it at first, until I noticed that they were also wearing the same clothes as me. I was sitting in my room, listening to music, when suddenly I felt a presence behind me. I turned around, but there was nothing there. I thought maybe I was just being paranoid. Maybe I had heard my name or something, so I went back to listening to my music. On Saturday nights, I would go out drinking with my friends. I turned around and saw the exact same thing. It was standing, right there in front of me. I couldn't believe my eyes. I was in shock. But I feel it every time I close my eyes. It's like it's trying to get into my mind. Please help me. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and see you next time. I felt as if my soul was being pulled out of my body. Also hit that subscribe button because I put out new videos every single day. I was paralyzed with fear. I couldn't move or speak. I tried to scream, but no sound came out of my mouth. I don't know how long I sat there in shock. But eventually the presence vanished and I was left alone in my room. One night we decided to go to the local pub. I don't remember how many drinks I had, but it must have been quite a few because I got very drunk. I looked closer and it was me. I couldn't believe my eyes. At first I thought it was my friend playing a joke on me, but then I noticed that he was also wearing the same clothes as me. I just nodded and staggered away. That moment still haunts me to this day. It's been almost a month now, and I still can't get it out of my head. Why did I see my drunk future self? Is it possible for time to be out of sync, or is it just a coincidence? What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and see you next time. I remember thinking, shit, I didn't tell him what I was wearing tonight. I kept walking, and the more I walked, the more I realized that it wasn't my friend. It was me. I couldn't believe my eyes. I literally stopped in my tracks in shock. I literally doubled over in shock. I don't remember what I said after that, but I must have looked pretty drunk because he asked if I was okay. I just nodded and staggered away as we watched. It became more and more clear. There were 4 cameras set up outside of the house, covering every angle, and none of them showed me going inside the house or ever going down that alley. They showed me walking on the sidewalk next to the house, but never inside. And they showed my mom opening the front door to let herself in after work. We were stumped. The footage showed me walking up to the door, knocking on it, and then my mom opening it. But you could see that I was looking really weird and scared, kind of like how I felt. Then I was let inside, and the door was closed behind me. He kept smiling, and then he turned and walked down a side street into an alley. I was confused, but curiosity got the best of me, so I followed him. So it was a nice walk with good music in my headphones. He helped us look through the footage and try to figure out what happened to me. We were racking our brains trying to think of any logical explanation. Then my dad noticed something. He called the police and reported me missing. Because I knew the second that I stepped into that alley, I would get jumped and robbed or something. You see, I had wandered off to that alley without realizing it. I don't know if it was my anxiety or just the circumstances, but I must have ended up in an alternate universe or something. And the me that came from the future was actually the me that went missing. I remember getting home that night and telling my parents about seeing my doppelganger. They were, of course, concerned, but they thought it was just some crazy thing that kids see sometimes. Then I went to my room and went to sleep. But by this point, I couldn't stop. I had to know what was going on. I walked all the way down the alley, and there was no sign of him anywhere. I found a trash chute, and my heart just sank, because I knew there was no way that I could go up against whatever he was up against. I turned around and ran out of the alley and back onto the main road, where I proceeded to run the rest of the way home without my backpack. I wasn't going to risk turning back. The day was pretty cold. So I had on a gray hoodie with black jeans and my black Converse sneakers. When she came downstairs, I told her everything that happened, and she, of course, was very worried. She told me to go change and then come back downstairs so we could watch the security cameras. My dad had installed these cameras all over the house because we had been getting a lot of break-ins in our neighborhood, and he wanted to be prepared. I was still shaking, but I went upstairs anyway and changed into a pair of shorts and a t-shirt. I don't remember what color hoodie it was, but it was one of my favorite hoodies, and it was gray. I remember because we only had two of them. One was mine, and the other was my brother's. As I was walking, I saw the person who looked exactly like me coming down the block. At this point, my heart is racing, and I'm thinking to myself, what the hell am I doing? When I got home, I threw the door open, and I just yelled for my mom. After I came back downstairs, we checked the front door camera. Then my mom asked me a question. We started going through the other cameras. My dad came home that evening, and we explained everything that had happened to him. Turns out that the person I saw on the street was actually me from the future. The next morning, I woke up and decided to tell my parents again. That's when my mom picked up her phone and called the cops. Welcome to my channel, where creepy things people capture on camera are shared. In our first story, the funeral photo, it was a cold January day. It's a kind of day where the sun doesn't shine and the wind just bites at your bones. We were all stiff from the cold and not really saying much. There was my aunt, his wife, crying quietly, my grandparents, my dad, his brother, sister, and then there was me, my cousin, and two other relatives. I remember because I saw the flash go off, and I thought that was odd. It was a funeral, and they don't really want you using flash photography. I was getting ready to delete it when I noticed something weird. My cousin was right behind me, and his face was visible in the reflection of my glasses. No one knew how he got into the funeral home. No one knew how he got into the picture. I tried to ignore him, tried to pretend I hadn't seen anything, but every time I looked at the photo, he was there, always in the same spot, always with the same emotionless expression on his face. But in the picture, he wasn't. I was confused. He was standing in the same spot. He was wearing the same clothes. But what scared me the most was his face. Was he haunting our family? Why did he appear in both pictures? Did he show himself to me and my cousin? Or did he show himself to the whole family in the picture from 1952? And before you go, make sure to follow to be alerted about new videos. Does he have something to do with our family tree? Why is he in the picture? Why does he keep showing himself to us? He looked the same as he did in the picture with me and my cousin. He hadn't aged one bit in 65 years. How could this be possible? I showed it to the lady working there, and she said she had no idea how that happened. But when I turned to look, my cousin was already looking down at his phone. He stands in the crowd, emotionless, watching the proceedings. I can't help but wonder, is he part of the funeral procession? Is he the Grim Reaper? Is he here to collect the souls of those that have died? I wish I could ask him, but I guess I'll never know. I was trying to figure out why there was a second set of eyes in the photo. That's when I saw the guy in the back. He was tall and pale, and he was wearing a black suit. He swore he only took 3 photos and everyone was in the front of the store when he took them. I believed him. I was helping my mom go through some of my great-grandfather's stuff. My great-grandfather had been dead for more than 20 years. He died in 1952. As my mom and I were going through old photo albums, I came across a picture of his funeral. It was taken in the exact same place, the exact same spot as the picture of me and my cousin. I decided the man was probably just some worker from the funeral home, or maybe a guest of one of the families. Maybe he was a friend of my uncle's, and his family had flown in, but I never saw him. He stood out like a sore thumb, and it wasn't just because of the way he dressed. It was like he seemed to have come from a different time period. He had taken 3 quick pictures. I asked him what he was doing, and he said he was taking pictures for the family. I told him to stop because the funeral home people would probably get mad if they caught him, but he didn't listen. I went to the funeral home to pay my respects to my uncle who had passed away. I stood back so that I could see everyone in the picture. My cousin stood next to me. My aunt refused to be in the picture. The location, the setup, even the angle of the picture was the same. The photographer must have used the same spot for every funeral, but that wasn't what caught my eye. What caught my eye was the man in the back. She said she didn't want to be reminded of her loss. She was still crying, so we let her be. My dad, his siblings, and my grandpa stood in the middle of the picture. My grandma refused to stand in the middle. She stood off to the side. Then there was me and my cousin in the back row. He was only 47. My cousin found a brain tumor the size of a grapefruit, so he died fairly quickly after that. When I got there, most of the family was already gathered. After paying my respects, I asked if anyone wanted to take a family picture so we could have something to remember this day by. My cousin had his phone out and was taking pictures with it. After everyone had left, I went back to the funeral home. I was going to pick up my uncle's things. I got his box with his personal belongings. I also asked if they had the photos that my cousin had taken. They did. They were sitting on the counter. I looked at them and realized they weren't good photos. There was one of the entire group, one of just my dad and his siblings, and the last one was of just me and my cousin. I was looking at the photo of just me and my cousin. A week later, I was looking at the print again. I had saved it to my computer. No one knew him. No one had seen him at the funeral. I asked my cousin about it, and he said he didn't know anything. But then I got another creepy surprise. It was a different time, but everything else was the same. It was the same man in the picture with me and my cousin. Now I can't help but wonder, was he a ghost? Now that I think about it, every time I've gone to a funeral, I've seen him. Now it's time to hear from you. What do you think is going on with this man? Let me know in the comments below. My apartment reset overnight. I left my dirty dishes in the sink and my laundry on the floor before bed. I woke up. Everything was clean, not tidied, reset. The TV was back on the startup screen. The clocks were flashing. My phone said it was 2 days earlier. But my texts from the missing days were still there. Even weirder, I replied to some of them. This is what happened. It was a Tuesday. I got home from work at about 6 p.m. I took off my shoes and then proceeded to spend the evening just kind of doing nothing. I cleaned up the counters and the table real quick, but I had way too much stuff on my plate to do anything thorough. I went to my kitchen to grab a glass of water. On my counter was a post-it note that said, "You up." I looked all around the kitchen to see where it could have come from, but I couldn't find anything. I had left dirty plates, bowls, and silverware in the sink when I went to bed. Now it looked like someone had run the dishwasher, and everything was sparkling clean. I didn't think much of it. Maybe whoever came into my apartment cleaned up after themselves. No. But then I turned around and saw that my trash cans were also empty. Unlocked it and was greeted with a message that said, "Welcome to iPhone." I could reply to the messages from Tuesday, but I couldn't reply to the ones from Monday. If my phone had been reset, why were my old text messages still there? I tried to delete them, but the option was grayed out. I was getting really scared at this point. I didn't know what was happening. I called my friend Ben. He knows everything about phones and computers. Maybe he could help me. A lot of people told me that it sounded like my phone was infected with malware. I'm still really scared that someone could break into my apartment and steal my stuff. But I guess there's nothing I can do about it. Some people suggested that I might have been sleepwalking, and that's why my phone was reset. But most people told me that I should be grateful, because maybe I would have been kidnapped if I didn't pass out on the couch. I double-checked the date to make sure I wasn't crazy. It was definitely Monday. Shrugged and decided to move on. I knew that meant that my phone had been reset. But the weirdest part was that my phone's wallpaper was the same as it was on Sunday. All of my text messages were there. They were all red. Eventually, he told me that my phone was completely corrupted, and that the only way to fix it was to erase it and restore it with a backup from iCloud. I didn't want to lose my data, but I had no choice. I erased my phone and restored it. But there were also 2 new messages from people. One was from my mom asking if I wanted to go shopping with her on Tuesday. At this time, I could reply to all of them, including the ones from Monday. I asked my friends and family if they had experienced anything like this, but no one had. And I didn't want to sound crazy if I told anyone else. I ended up replying to my mom and Marcus, telling them that I could make it to either event. I never heard from either of them again. The other was from Marcus asking if I wanted to go out tonight. I hadn't gotten either of these messages on Tuesday, but I remembered seeing them on Monday. I checked the bags and they were still full when I went to bed. I eventually gave up and went to bed. I figured I could live with the mess for another night. I walked into my living room and realized that my TV was back on the startup screen. I'd been watching a show when I went to bed, but now my TV was acting like it hadn't been plugged in for months. I went to my bedroom and realized that both of my clocks were flashing. It looked like the batteries died. I opened the clock to change the batteries, but there were brand new ones inside. Then I looked at the calendar and realized that today was Monday. It was supposed to be Wednesday. I knew I should get up, but I just wanted to lie in bed for a couple more minutes. Unfortunately, my bladder had other plans and I had to get up. As I got out of bed, I noticed something strange. I had left a pile of dirty clothes on the floor beside my washer and dryer. But now my hamper was full, and the clothes were cleanly folded on my bed. No one comes over when I'm not home. I'm always sure to lock my doors and my windows. I never leave my keys lying around, and I have cameras outside my door and above my peephole. And none of those things showed any signs of forced entry. My sheets were perfectly folded on top of my comforter. They weren't crumpled or untucked anywhere like they normally are. I assumed that someone must have come into my room while I was sleeping and fixed my bed for me. I thought it was strange, but I was also grateful because I hate making my own bed. I didn't feel like going to sleep yet, so I put on Netflix and started watching a show. My windows and doors were locked, and I was sure that I was home alone. I got up and went to my kitchen to make some coffee. That's when I realized that my apartment had been reset. Apparently, he tried calling me around 10 p.m. when I passed out on the couch. He sent me another message saying that he was outside my apartment. I told him that I'd be out in a couple of minutes, but in reality, I didn't get up for another hour. By 9:30, though, I was fast asleep sitting up straight on the couch. I decided to make one of my favorite meals, chicken parmesan. It's become my routine. After a few minutes of scrolling through social media, I saw an ad for HelloFresh, and they were offering 16 free meals with no commitment required. So I went ahead and signed up. At this point, I knew I needed to clean up if I wanted to cook dinner, because my kitchen was a disaster. As I was making dinner, my friend Marcus texted me asking if I wanted to go out tonight. He usually goes out every Wednesday, so I knew he probably wanted company. I told him that I'd love to go out, but I couldn't because I had to work on my novel. I wasn't really working on my novel, but I felt bad turning down Marcus, so I lied to him. After we finished eating, I spent some time playing video games, but I started feeling sleepy by 9 p.m. When I woke up, it was 1 a.m. I checked my phone, and Marcus had sent me a couple of concerned messages. I don't know why I was so tired last night. I guess I just needed it. When I woke up the next morning, it was around 9 a.m. But as I got up, I realized that there were no signs of forced entry. The first thing that caught my attention was the sink. But the strangest thing was my laundry, and I realized that even weirder things were happening. That's when I ran to my phone to check the date. As I scrolled through my text messages, I noticed something very strange. But that's when I noticed another strange thing. My text messages from Monday were still there. He walked me through a bunch of different solutions, but nothing worked. But when it was done restoring, I had the same text messages back. It was like nothing had ever happened. I still have no idea what happened that night. I wonder if someone hacked into my phone or if my brain did something weird. That's why I decided to come online to ask strangers. All of the suggestions made sense, but none of them made me feel better. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to subscribe. Thanks for watching. You ever have one of those days where everything goes wrong? It's like your toast falls butter side down, you spill coffee on your only white shirt, and you get a parking ticket right outside your house. Well, today's one of those days, but it's 1,000 times worse. Because today, I lost an hour of my life, and I do not know what happened to it. It all started when I got a call from my wife, Rachel. She said our 3-year-old daughter had thrown up, and I needed to come home immediately. As soon as I hung up, I looked at the clock on my computer screen. It was 3:12 p.m., so it's the only one that has usable footage. Let's see what happens at 3:12. On the screen, I saw myself walk into my office and turn on my computer. So far, so good. But then I looked at the time again. When I turned on my computer, I took my jacket off and put it on the back of the chair. And in the next clip, the jacket is on the floor. I must have taken it off when I left the office, but I have no memory of doing that. 3:43. What? How can I be sitting here watching myself in the security footage when it says 3:43? Someone had ripped the tag off my shirt and someone had cut my fingernails really close to the skin. whoever attacked me had done it cleanly. This was no rookie killer. The SD card had been empty yesterday, so I popped it in the slot in the back of the DVR and waited for it to load. I explained what had happened, and they sent 2 cops in an ambulance. They searched my office, but they found nothing. Said I was lucky. Whoever did this knew what they were doing. I downloaded the footage from the SD card and posted it online. I wrote a description of what happened, and I offered a reward for information leading to an arrest. Every face, every conversation, hoping it will jog my memory. Hoping I'll remember something, anything. But so far, nothing. I've gotten a few responses, but none of them seem to know anything. Maybe I did have a psychotic break and attacked an innocent person, and that's why I blocked it out. I wish I could remember. Wish I could find out what happened to that hour. If they had applied a little more pressure to my fingernails, they could have broken the bones. I know my security footage shows it, but the police never asked me for it. When they visited me at the hospital, they never even mentioned it. Tried to tell them, but they cut me off. Just kept asking me if I knew anyone who might want to hurt me. And if they had stabbed me a couple of times, they could have killed me. I guess whoever attacked me was clean. I'm sure they swept my office for prints and DNA, but they never called me and told me anything. And they didn't ask me any questions about what might have happened or who might have attacked me. I have a rule that if I leave my office before 4 p.m., I have to make up the hours later. And it was 3:43. What? How did it go from 3:12 to 3:43? They never even filed a missing hour report. Maybe they think I'm making this up. I don't blame them. This sounds crazy. I know what happened. I can feel it in my gut. Then I walked down the hall, turned right, walked a little ways, turned left, and then I stopped. I stared straight ahead at the wall for 5 minutes, and I turned around and walked back the way I came. And what did they want from me? Whatever it is, I bet it's in the second half of the missing hour. That's the part I haven't seen yet. I stopped at the water cooler and drank water for a minute. Then I went back to the wall and stared at it for another 4 minutes. And then I walked out of the building. This means I left my office and then I blacked out and I don't remember anything. Why did I go to the wall and stare at it for 9 minutes twice? And why did I drink water? I don't even like water. What if I wasn't myself when I went to the wall? What if someone had taken control of my body and forced me to go there? Then I'd blocked it out, but my subconscious mind made me record the event so that when I woke up, I would know what had happened. I left my office between 3:12 and 3:43. That means I was gone for 31 minutes, but I don't remember leaving my office or driving home or anything. I knew I hadn't been on my phone long enough for an hour to pass. I double-checked. Nope, no missed calls. I just got my wife's call and then I ordered food and now an hour has passed, so I figured I would just stay a little bit longer and get some work done. I have this one project that I need to finish by tomorrow morning. I'm trying to get a new client, a high-profile guy, and he wants some hand-drawn maps of crime scenes from around the city, so I thought I'd go grab something quick to eat. When I walked in, there was a line, but it was moving fast and I wasn't in a rush anyway, so I just stood there and waited. The line went pretty fast. I ordered myself a burrito and then I sat down to eat. I've been drawing these maps all week and I'm really close to being done with them, so I thought, what the hell? I'll just do some more and then go home and see my kid. I did and eat lunch, so I was hungry and there is a Chipotle right across the street from my office building. But while I was waiting for my food, I checked my phone real quick. I was freaking out. My food came and I ate it as fast as I could, practically inhaling it. Then I ran back to my office. I needed to find out what happened to that hour. When I got into my office, I hit replay on my security cam. I installed these cameras about a year ago, after we had a string of robberies in the area. I can watch the live feed on my phone, but the recordings are only saved for 14 days. So if anything important happened, I need to check the footage right away. The camera in my office is always recording, but anytime I enter the office, it saves the footage to an SD card. When it finally came up, I clicked on the file. It was timestamped 3:12 p.m. Perfect. Then it hit me. I'm not in the office. I'm not watching the footage in my office. I'm watching it from my phone. Then I noticed something else in the footage. I kept watching. At 3:44, I walked out of my office, leaving the door open. So I left my office at 3:44, and I didn't get back until 4:27. But what happened to me between 3:44 and 4:27? All of a sudden, I felt a cold dread crawl up my spine. I raced to my office window and looked down at the street. There were no signs of struggle. I looked at my clothes. They were all torn. I called 911 and told them to send someone to my office. At the hospital, the doctor checked me out and gave me a clean bill of health. The cops searched the area, but they didn't find anything. I'm sure there's footage of me walking to the wall and back again. If they won't investigate, I'll do it myself. Now I'm scared. Who was behind this attack? Every night I wake up in a cold sweat, replaying the day in my head, looking for clues. I'm going through every interaction I had. Maybe I'm going crazy. Maybe I really did block it out.